About to make Carol Shelby very proud. What's up guys, David here, and I am in a childhood dream right now. This is a 2013 GT500 with a Kenne Bell supercharger on it that was actually owned by Kenne Bell as the Super Snake test car. I know that's a mouthful. So what happened was that Kenne Bell bought this car in 2013 when they made the GT500, and what happened was like, well, we need to create development for the Super Snake, the Shelby Super Snake, that will make 850 horsepower. So they slapped on this massive Kenne Bell supercharger on it, and they did a bunch of tests with it, eventually making 1100 horsepower and throwing a rod, going straight through the block. So they figured out what the limit of this motor was. It's still on the stock drivetrain on 8 pounds of boost now, and still makes 750 wheel horsepower and 750 foot-pounds of torque. Dead even power curve. And I never thought that this car would feel way different than the Coyote car, but it does. And I think the main reasoning is because of its gearing. It has extremely long gearing in order to get the crazy 0 to 60 time that Ford wanted to claim with SVT. They wanted to claim a crazy fast 0 to 60, so you go 0 to 60 in 1 gear. So after that, second, you can go all the way to 100. It's fun, but at the same time, it's super easy to get into trouble. This car has no cats on it, no nothing really, and Borla exhaust, and it's pretty quiet. I don't have to yell at you. I don't have to do anything drastic, and it's pretty simple. Also, I've never driven a Mustang with the glass roof, and I'm extremely excited to tell you it's really cool. I'm breaking 2,500 RPMs on the highway, and I'm near high digits. Kenne Bell makes a bunch of different blowers, but the 2.3 is probably the most known for the Terminator. Then the 3.6 is what is on this car. So essentially you're slapping on that much more displacement on a 5.8 liter V8. This car originally in 2013 came out right after the Coyote 5.0 of 2013, which made 420 horsepower. Now this, they were like, oh, no way Shelby's gonna come out with something crazy. So they did. Carol Shelby, almost as his last goodbye before he passed away, this car made 662 crank horsepower out of the box. And there wasn't a performance bargain at the time for this amount of money. It was right around $60,000. And the only other car that could do that really was the ZR1, which was $112,000, so double the price. But I get why a lot of people didn't like the idea of a 662 horsepower S197 chassis Mustang, because it still has the live axle. And that's why a lot of car journalists have said this is the scariest stock car you could possibly ever buy, because if you hit a bump at full throttle, you're gonna do a nice little hop. You know what you're doing, it's completely fine. It's extremely easy to drive around town. And the interior is very similar to any other Mustang. That's a common criticism. The wheel's a little bit different, has suede on the sides, it's got the Cobra emblem on the middle, you have full navigation, and a sweet ass shaker system. Really, really good sound system. It's almost a double-edged sword, because some people might complain that the long gearing you don't have to shift as much. So that might create like the, oh, well, I won't enjoy it as much because I'm breaking the law instantly. But at the same time, if you just want to romp on somebody, it is the car, because you're just going to reel all the way out. This is also the first Mustang ever to reach 200 miles an hour from the factory. And now it has absolutely no problem with an extra 150 wheel horsepower. It's interesting because compared to my car, which is 100 horsepower down to the wheels, with a ProCharger, the power comes on completely differently. The ProCharger is almost it's almost turbo-like with a little bit faster response. This is just power all the time, like no matter what. Traction control. That was crazy. So that was all first gear. Off camera, I had to find so much room to do that. It took me forever to just do that because of the gearing in this car. Once like we said before, first goes to 60 miles an hour. So you can't have anybody around you. It's loud, obnoxious when you're in it. There's just no way around it. So yeah, it took a while. At the very, very top, you get the supercharger whine. It's crazy because you're like, exhaust, oh my God, it's crazy sounding, it's amazing, oh my God, whine. Woo-wee. You can't even use third. Like when you're on a back road, there is no third. This might as well be called the 2-speed GT500. I'm sure on camera I have the sheer focus eyes, just like, do not get hurt. Do not become a meme. I'm already up to speed. I'm done. That's all I had to do. So let's talk about handling. When you're up to speed after second gear, it feels like it almost doesn't have handling because you're already going that fast. Because with a shorter gear ratio, you can kind of manage knowing where you are. This is like all power, all at once. Oh dear, I need to stay straight. Oh, that's a turn. That's why I've been yanking on the brakes to get it down to stop and so I can go around a corner. If you're cruising, just kind of going about your day, enjoying it, adding a little bit of power around corners, it's completely fine, especially because this car has a Watts Link system. I actually have a Watts Link video if you want to see how those work, but it's in the back and it helps the live axle a little bit more to act kind of like independent rear suspension. But the car on big bumps still hops a lot and you can't let it scare you, and that's where you mess up. If you let the car scare you, that's where you mess up. God. Warp speed! The thing about this car is that it just keeps pulling. It never stops. That's why every time I get in it, I'm like, oh, it's still going. And then I let out of it and I get right back in it. It's exactly the same power that it was when I let off, if that makes sense. So let off, back in, it doesn't matter. It never drops RPM in a drastic way. You just send it. This is the first 2013-14 GT500 I've ever driven, and I decided to drive one with 150 extra wheel horsepower. So, do I still think that the 13-14 GT500 is still the scariest car you could buy for the money? Yes, it is still that wild. Like, my Coyote car is very fast, but it is definitely more controllable because of how the power comes on. It's like, I hate the driver. How much can he send it until he gives up or wimps out? This car, you cannot be a wimp to drive this thing. The only thing I had trouble with today driving this car was the clutch. The clutch in this is a really beefy, like 1200 horsepower clutch. So at a dead stop, I sucked. Every single stop, I was awful at it. But with any kind of a rolling start, I was completely fine, which I thought was interesting. Okay, clutch, 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 there we go. Let it see, a little bit of a rolling start, then you have it. But without it, not so much. But I'm cruising, I'm at 45 miles an hour, 3,000 RPM in second gear. All right, I want to thank everybody for seeing me manhandle this GT500. Never driven a Kenne Bell GT500. I've always wanted to, and now I see why they're so loved, and also why so many people go ahead and get the Super Snake. If you think about it, we basically drove a Super Snake R&D car. So, very incredible, insanely fast, insanely scary. That's all I got to say about that. So once again, thank you all so much for watching. I upload every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Goodbye. Hey, you, want clean wheels? Hey, use this. Spray on. Let sit for 45 seconds and turn purple. Spray again with water. Clean wheels. Make sure to check out www.pattersoncarcare.com. Made by car dudes for car dudes.